Hi, and thanks for joining me today as I discuss the ways that my experience as a homeschool student influenced the ways that I want to teach my children. I was homeschooled from first grade through 12th grade, and my mom did an excellent job. I really admire what she did, especially considering that when she started, she did not have the options and resources available that we have today. I remember her telling me at one point that with my oldest sibling, she hand wrote a lot of the worksheets because she just didn't have both the budget and the resources available to her. So I really admire what she's done. And if I can be half as successful as she was in schooling my own children, I will be satisfied. But we always learn, we continue learning. And so I want to take some of the things that I've learned, some of my experiences, some of the things that I perceive now as, oh, I like that, I don't like that so much, and take that and manipulate it and give my child the best that I can give her. So there's 5 things today. There's 3 things that I really want to emulate in the way that I was homeschooled that I really appreciate. And then there's 2 things that I'd like to change. First of those is something that I really want to emulate, and that is teaching my child independent learning. I really value the ability to learn without somebody holding my hand. It is something that has given me so much confidence and so much ability in the jobs that I have done. The ability to know what I do and don't know, and how to learn what I don't know, where to find resources, how to learn from a book or an article, or just to be able to find the resources and learn from those without somebody having to stand there and teach you and train you in everything. And obviously there are some things that you're going to need training in. You're not going to know everything all at once, but it has been such a value to me to be able to teach myself. And so I really want to foster that in my children. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to help them. Like, I'm just going to be, here kid, do your school by yourself. But it does mean that I want to start developing that ability now. So I have a daughter who's in preschool, and we do little worksheets, and she loves them. She has a grand time. I'm not walking away from the table and saying, okay, do your work. Obviously, she is way too young. But there are times when I see a worksheet that she's done before, and she knows what she's doing, she knows how to color it, she knows what she's sorting, that I will step back. We do our school side by side at the table, and I will say, okay, you keep working on it after I've seen her do a few by herself on the page, and I'll stand up from the table and I'll walk about 2 feet away and I'll flip through a book or do something that shows her that I'm engaged in something else. But I'm also right there. If she has any questions, I answer them, and I am paying close attention to her. If she's faltering or getting lost or getting distracted, I'm there to go, oh, pay attention, or oh, what don't you know, or do you need help with that? And I can help her, but I'm trying to, as I see things that she can perform without me being right there next to her, trying to step back and let her do that. Again, still being fully available, still being fully there for her, fully present, but also just the idea that she can work without my presence there. So that is something that I really want to foster starting now and building. But on the flip side of that, I also really want to be involved in their homeschool. So balancing that is, a struggle. So the second thing that I would love to emulate is motivation to industry, the ability to learn at my own pace and see the reward of hard work. If I really was good at a subject, I could excel and advance in that subject. I could complete it early, I could go further. Or if I saw a subject that I didn't particularly love but wanted to be industrious, I could complete that subject and then go on to other studies that I enjoyed more. Now, my mom did monitor how far ahead she would let us get in a subject because she never wanted to get so far ahead that we got stuck or lost or missed things. But we did have the ability to be industrious and to move forward and not be stuck doing. And so there was reward for good hard work, reward for investing. And I think that's an excellent thing. And along that line, there was also flexibility in our homeschool. We did have a rhythm, we did have a routine, we did have a way things were set, but there was flexibility to work on a weekend so that I could have a weekday off to go do something fun. Again, within my mom's oversight and permission. The ability to finish early in a day if I wanted to get up early that day and start some of my independent work early. The ability to homeschool in my PJs. I know that's funny, but it's a great thing for a child to feel comfortable and to have flexibility. Now, again, I really thrive well in systems and schedules, and so there will be a schedule, there will be a system, but there are things that don't have to be written in stone. And the ability to be flexible really gives your child, again, the ability to see reward for work, to, there's a benefit to be able to take a week off when you're sick, to have the flexibility to go, okay, we can lay the schedule down and let's just get well. Let's not stress everybody out, be frustrated and hate school, right? We weren't stuck within a rigid frame. but there were expectations to be met. And I think that's a really good compromise and balance. So the next thing is one that I want to change. And that would be that I want to incorporate more group learning in an engaging format. So this is where I feel like the balance between teaching my child to be independent in their studies and being involved is a fine line to walk, and to figure out how I want to do that. But there were subjects, and in particular, I would say history, social studies, science, that I did not find enjoyable. I found very rote, very boring, and I think it's because I was handed a textbook to read, and then I answered questions. And I do understand, because again, my mom did not have access to all the resources we have now, but also we had 7 kids in our family, and my mom could not sit down with a 7-kid family, a large gap in the ages between all of the children, and help everybody in their studies. I do understand that makes it extremely difficult, and I think she did really well within that. But I don't have 7 children, I have 3, and they're fairly close in age overall, and so I would really like to incorporate group studies for things like history, science, some of the other things that can be incorporated that well. And in particular, I want to make those subjects come alive, and I think that one of the ways to do that is for me to be involved in enjoying it. And I think when your children see you enjoying something, they realize, oh, there's something to enjoy, and they can get involved and excited. And especially at the younger age, when they still really value your input and your company and your presence and you reading aloud to them, I think your presence and being able to do that with them can really foster a love of that subject. So yes, there will come an age where they're older and they want to read it by themselves, and that will be fine. But at this point, when they're young, I want to be involved. So for history, I want to read it with them, and we will still use textbooks. I will read to them, but I want to find a textbook that's engaging, and that's not just read the facts, read the dates, and then tell me the facts, tell me the dates. I want something that's written in a little bit more of an engaging manner, something that has a little bit more hands-on components, timelines that you can do, mapping that you can do, things that kind of tie it together. And I really want to incorporate biographies, historical fiction that's written in an accurate manner into it to make the times come alive for the children, reading them as a family. And since we'll be doing the history as a family, we can read the stories of family and all engage and discuss, oh, how did that relate to that? And so I think being part of that is something I really want to do. And the same thing in science. Science is fascinating, but it never fascinated me as a child. But now I'm like, wow, it's incredible. And so I want to give that love of learning that subject and that like, whoa, this is cool to my child. And I think I can do that by being present and by choosing a curriculum that can incorporate a little bit of hands-on. Now, just a caveat, I am not a crafty, artsy person. I am not an Etsy person. I just don't do that. I don't go on Pinterest and find it, and I'm a Pinterest fails person. So within reason, I really want to incorporate hands-on tactile abilities, whether that's buying a kit that my child can use or having a curriculum that incorporates some of that in an easy manner that doesn't need a lot of extra materials and supplies, but giving my children the ability to not only hear the ideas, but to see it in their everyday life and to put it to an actual practical, hands-on, tangible way of seeing it done. Not just hear how a volcano erupts, but let's practice making mini volcanoes and make it just come alive a little bit. Or not just to hear how gravity works, but let's actually practice experimenting with a ball and gravity, and does it always do the same thing? And so incorporating that a little bit more, taking it out of theory and into real life for science, I think. But again, balancing which subjects can I teach my children to learn independently, and which ones do I want to be their hands-on for a while, like I said, and then when they get a certain age where they want to be more independent, letting them go. But hopefully by then they'll have learned that these subjects are interesting. We'll have given them a foundation from which to thrive in that. And lastly, the thing that I would like to change from the way I was homeschooled is I would like to have more closed book formal testing. And I'm not talking about state testing. I'm not talking about testing that you send to anybody else, but within our homeschool. I know there's a lot of people who are moving away from that because it ties your child to grades, and it ties your child to having to perform within a box versus learning the content. And I do understand that it's more valuable for them to engage and love the content and get a grasp of it overall than to have the dates and facts perfect. And I do understand that it's good not to tie children down to a grade, and not to compare children to each other, or to have this child who excels this way and this child who just doesn't. And I get that. But there is a skill to testing, and it is something that I wish I had. For most part, growing up, all of our testing was open book, really informal, and there was very little of it. And I am a very poor tester as an adult. And For an example, when I turned 14 or 15 and I went to get my driver's permit, I flunked my permit the first time around, the written test, and not because I didn't know the information. I had spent time reading the manual, I knew the manual, and I knew the answers, and I flunked as I knew the answers. I answered wrong even though I had the correct information in my head. And when I walked away, like, I knew that I had answered wrong. But I still didn't know how to test. I didn't know how to, one, study for a test, and I didn't know how to perform under pressure. I started second guessing myself. It was an unfamiliar environment to me, and so I kind of froze up in it. And there will be other testing that are required in college, just in life. You have to be able to have that skill. And so I would like to give my children the ability to be comfortable in that skill, to know how to study for something, to know what is important information and what isn't, and how to decide that, and then how to sit down in a slightly pressured, uncomfortable environment and to put your knowledge out on paper for somebody else. So I'm going to be asking that of my children. I'm going to be periodically, and not every subject, not every week, not at every age, but even at younger ages, I want to incorporate the ability to sit down and share what you've learned in a way that is required. Not just recite back to me what I've read, but here are questions that you need to answer about this information, just to teach them that skill. And again, you don't have to share their grade. You don't even have to grade it if you don't want to. You don't have to compare each child's answers if those are things that bother you. But I want to give them the skill of knowing how to take a test and be comfortable doing it. And so that would be my final thing. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. And if you have, it's super, super helpful for me if you can like or subscribe this video, because it helps me to build up this channel, and it helps you to get the content that I continue to make if you want that. So have a great day, and thank you for joining me.